Welcome to the Other Side Pod. I'm Nadine. We're not experts. We're just humans having a human experience we think you can learn from, or relate to, or laugh at, or cry over. So hit download, dive in, and hear how folks found themselves on the other side. We're recording with Flo. Okay, do you have a favorite TV show right now?
Oh my God, right now, I can't wait for, that sounds pretty cheesy, but Emily in Paris on December 18th for the new season.
I did not see that coming. So glad I asked these off the cuff questions. Stop it. How many seasons are there of Emily in Paris?
I think like 4 or 5, something like that.
And you watched all of them?
Yes. It's just
Bless.
like a switch
What?
off, like it's just funny to watch
Yeah.
and yeah, nothing serious.
That is I like go back to watch Schitt's Creek a lot or The Office or Gilmore Girls.
Of course,
It just my nervous system is like, thank you.
it's
Thank
comfort.
you. It is. Ah, I'm so glad I asked you that. Emily in Paris. Didn't see it. Flo, tell me okay, tell the lovely listeners who you are.
So I'm Flo. I was a canoe slalom athlete for most of my adulthood. I started paddling when I was about 12 years old, like at the very start of high school, and did schooling at the same time as paddling, competed internationally, and competed in the Olympics as well in 2020, and recently retired about a year and a half ago from sport, and now working for the city of Ottawa as a police officer.
Oh my God, I'm already in love. Okay, you're 12 years old. Okay, you're 11, you're 10, you're 9. Do you play sports? Do you love to play? Do you love to move? What are you doing as a little kid?
Yeah, I did a bunch of tennis growing up and played a bunch of different sport. My dad was actually a baseball player when he was young. He, as like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, he went to Williamsport, so like the biggest like scene for baseball at that age, and competed with other against other countries. And then my sister played tennis at a higher level, and we both started together playing tennis, and she went on continue with that. And then I discovered kayaking through my high school and then moved on with that.
So before you discovered kayaking, paddling, canoeing, you were you loving tennis?
Oh, I liked competition. I like tennis as a individual sport, and you get to control your performance to an extent, obviously, but you're not relying on anybody, and you make your own decision and you train to get better, on your own. And yeah, you're not relying on anyone. You're making the mistakes and you get to correct them along the way. And after that, in high school, I played flag football for 5 years and basketball as well. And I enjoyed like the team cohesion, but again, I like the individuality of tennis and later on kayaking because I could spend as much time as I could perfecting a skill, and then I would see it reflect when I would be competing or just training. And I could really have an impact on my own performance rather than having to depend on other people for that.
Almost like you had a better sense of controlling how it went, like controlling your own
Hmm.
destiny because it was absolutely up to you. If you want to slack off, that was
Yep.
you're to blame. If you want to push harder, you were to
Yep.
credit with
And
that.
yeah, you can see like the direct benefit of your effort pretty much, right? Sometimes in a team sport, you could be working really hard, training really hard, but then the team that you're working with isn't putting as much effort and you don't see that reflect on the playing field. So that's what I enjoyed about kayaking and tennis.
Okay, scale this for me. 1 being don't care at all, 10 being the most competitive person on earth. How competitive are you from a 1 to a 10?
Well, I want to say that right now, probably less. I would probably put myself like, I don't know, an average of a 6, 7. But
Okay.
when I was younger, like probably at the peak of training and stuff like that, when you're in a competing environment every day, because also in canoe slalom, it's not like hockey or even like wrestling, we don't have like tournaments every week. So we have like a season in the summer composed of like 5 World Cups. And at the end of the season, we've got a world championship. And within the year, a couple of competitions here and there. So we don't compete per se like that much. So we try to recreate that in training. And so when you have to compete every day against your teammate to not be competitive is, I mean, it would be hard. So I would say like when I was competing and training full time, probably like a 9. But now I feel like I've dialed back and it's less stressful to not have to be competitive every day at every hour.
Okay, take me back to the first time you sat in, would it have been a canoe or a kayak?
I was a kayak and yeah,
Okay.
I was like 12, I believe. That was like my first year of high school because in Quebec it's a bit different. And it was one of my teacher, I don't even remember the subject, but one of my teacher, he came at the end of the year about in June, and he mentioned to me that one of his son did whitewater kayaking, and he was just like coming to me saying, "Oh, I think you like sport. I think you would enjoy kayaking," and he was promoting like the open house that was happening at the club in my hometown. And he's like, I think you should go. And that's how I tried it out. I went to that open house at the end of June, the end of the school year, and got in a kayak with an instructor and other people. I went there with a friend. And yeah, I think we were doing like little blocks of like initiation in the kayak and or introduction in the kayak. And I did one block and then I stayed on another block. And then my friend left. She was not that much interested. And I stayed and I stayed in the kayak for probably a whole like afternoon and then signed up for the summer camps right there. And that's how it began.
You know what I love about that? It's just someone taking notice that you liked sport,
Hmm.
they probably saw you were a bit competitive or that you liked the water or whatever. And just someone saying, try this thing out. Like you'd never sat in a kayak before.
Oh,
That's so lovely. Okay, a dumb question. When I see slalom canoeist, I'm like, okay, I know it's not this big canoe that David and I hop in once once a year at the
yeah.
cottage together. It's a kayak, right?
It's a
It's a
kayak.
single. So why don't we call it slalom kayaking?
It's just how the sport was named back in like 1976 when it was won the first time at the Olympics. It was so that was an exhibition sport in Munich. And then after that, they had like a long break. It didn't stay on until it was permanent in 1992 for Barcelona. But that's how they named it. And it started actually as canoe. And then after kayak came on. So the entire sport is called canoe slalom, but then it's split into two category, which is kayak and there's also canoe.
Oh, and you kayak.
Yes. And back in the day, there
Yeah.
was also C2, which is would have been like two people in a canoe, but now we've moved away from that to be like equal gender. So there's kayak men, kayak women, and canoe men, canoe women, because back in the day, the C2 was only a man's category.
Weird.
Yeah. Not so hard to.
No. What did you love about it, do you think, from that first afternoon that you spent the whole afternoon in there?
I've always liked water. I like, I grew up in Valleyfield, which is like an island. We're surrounded by water. My grandparents lived by the water. So I feel like I was just a kid that loved water and loved spending time in it. And be like kayaking brought me like close to that. And I think just the new effect or the fact that not a lot of people did it. It was a little bit niche, and I like that I was part of something that not a lot of people were part of. And it's funny because in my hometown it's not big. Valleyfield's not that big, and it was in the middle of downtown where the river is. It goes right through where Montreal Cotton was back in where my grandparents were young and they were working at this like industry, and now they turned it into a hotel and the river went straight through there. And so it was available all this time when I was growing up, but just never knew that it was something people did. And once I got to try it, I was like, I don't know why more people are not here and doing it. So yeah, I like being part of that and try to spread the word, in my community and my friends at school. And some of them did start with me, didn't keep going, but that was fun.
And it's wait, did you say your grandparents bought like had a hotel or
My gr-
this
my grand
town?
my grandparents or my grandpa worked at the Montreal Cotton, which was like
Mm.
a textile industry in Valleyfield, and that was the main economical what brought the most jobs there in Valleyfield, and it closed down. I can't say like when, and then they turned it, or Valleyfield, the city turned it into a hotel. But it
Right.
goes the thing is the Montreal Cotton was over the river, and they were
Yeah,
using
right.
like the river power to power some of that electrical machines. And then once they closed that down, then I don't know how everything happened, but they rebuilt it, and then the river was exposed, and then it was used for people to paddle on.
And was it rapids there?
Yep, yep, it was already
So you could
rapids,
paddle in the rapids.
and
Yeah.
the club did some. I think in the early '90s, mid '90s, they did man-made, like they moved a couple of rocks here and there to make it paddleable.
And you love the rapids. Is that your favorite part of it?
Yeah, I mean, like I love the Waywater, but for me, it's not everywhere we would go in World Cups, like the river would be different. Some would be more challenging in terms of Waywater, like they'd be bigger rapids. The gradient would be higher, and some others would be a little flatter, but a little more technical or shallower. So for me, it was the variety. I liked that
Yeah.
everywhere I went, it was different and you had to adapt. And even like when people would ask me, "Oh, what's your favorite river to paddle on? What's your favorite place to go compete?" I do have a place that I like to go for like the atmosphere and the environment, but I truly enjoy going everywhere and paddling on all these different rivers.
Almost like your favorite one is the next one because you have to
Yeah,
go figure something out,
yeah.
right?
It's like a puzzle
That's
every
so
time.
cool.
And even though we would return to the same locations year after year, the race course would be different. So yeah, there was never one thing that was the same.
Right. And were you ever scared?
Oh yeah, I mean like starting out when you're not as confident in your ability and your skills to navigate the bigger water, the bigger waves, the bigger drops. That's scary at first, but then once you're comfortable in that and you're comfortable in your skills, I feel like the scary part really just goes into the shadow more than in the bright light.
So when you're this little kid or like 12, I mean, it's pretty young, and you start canoeing or kayaking, when when did you think you wanted to compete? Like when was it clear to you that this was something you want to do more and more and more?
Mhm. I don't know if there's like a really a pinpoint moment of that, but I do remember an experience of my first nationals. So they were in Jonquière in Quebec, and that was in 2008, which coincided with the Olympics in Beijing, the Summer Games.
How old were you?
I was do some math here. I think 15. So like that
Okay,
was yeah,
okay.
like 3 years maybe after I started. So that was my first bigger national competition. And it happened that when we were at nationals and competing the same weekend, canoe slalom was on in Beijing. So when we were not on the water, we were watching Canadian and other countries compete in Beijing. And the river was actually it was big water, so it was really impressive. Like watching on TV, you would see like body disappear behind waves and like reappear on top, and it was super impressive to watch. And for me, that's kind of like where it sparked the interest of the Olympics and competing on the higher level.
When did you first know you were really good at this?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever answer that question as in like I never thought that I was that good at this. I feel like my motto was always trying to improve and get better And in my head, I've never achieved the top of the mountain. There was still more that I could have climbed. So I think I realized I was good at it when I made my first semifinal at a World Cup, and that was very validating in 2018. And then I tried to, maintain that level, and in my head, I could tell myself, like I'm good enough to be paddling in this field, and I can, compete with the best.
How many world championships did you compete in?
I think if we put like because I did 5 world championship as a under 23. So from 18 to 23, I did all of those. So that would be 5. And then afterwards, I started competing at the senior world championship. So from 23 to basically 30. So I must have done
Oh,
like about 10. Because the years of
wow.
the Olympics, there's no world championships. So it goes, yeah.
Okay. And so you were saying with your sport, it's not that you get to compete all the time.
Mhm.
So in one year, let's say it's a year without the Olympics, how many competitions would there be? One?
Without the Olympics?
Yeah.
So,
Let's say like in one year that the Olympics weren't on,
yep.
how many opportunities did you have to compete?
Yeah. So usually this season, how it goes is it starts for us Canadian in May, where we have our national team trials. So to see who's going to make the team for the year. And then usually pretty much after that, we would move to Europe to start training get ready for the World Cup circuit. And then there would be 3 World Cups in June, July. Then we'd have a little break and do 2 more World Cups, August, September. And then the World Championships usually September, October. And then after that, it kind of all like depends. Usually in August, we also have our national championship here in Canada. And it would always depend of the calendar if like we could make it or if it was necessary for us to remain in Europe to keep training for the bigger races. And then in the winter to prepare for team trials in the season, we would usually go either to France to train and they would have a competition or two there, or we would go to Australia and do the Australian Open down there. So all around, like I want to say I probably would probably be around 10 races a year.
That is so much on your body and your mental state as well. But whoa. So for how many years did you consistently do this?
Since I was 18. So 18 was when I first made the senior team for the first time. Um, I wasn't able to do that again until I was 23. So I had like 5 years that thankfully I still had support and was able to compete at the junior and under 23 world championship because otherwise that would have been really hard to stay in the sport. And then once I was 24, I made the senior team consistently until I retired. So I did that from 18 to 31 for like 13 years. Yeah.
So this is your full-time job. Like this is your life
Yeah.
for 11 years, basically.
Yeah, that's what it was. And well, I finished my high school obviously, and then after high school is when I decided that I wanted to be working, training towards, making the senior team consistently, making my way to the Olympics. So I moved to Ottawa, well, Gatineau, because at that time I didn't speak English at all. So I didn't learn English until I was 18, 17. And I moved here to pursue like my cégep in Gatineau and be able to train in Ottawa because that's where the National Training Center is. So I combined that, doing school out there, traveling across the bridge, less traffic back then, and then trained here at the river pretty much all year long. So I was paddling in the cold. I wasn't traveling as much in the winter back then because, well, I has less money, less funding from government, and I wanted to, keep doing school as much as possible. That was important for me. And yeah, so trained in all sorts of element, weather, all year round here.
Just for people who don't know, can you say what Saint Jep is?
So that's the in between. So it's mandatory in Quebec after high school to go to Cégep. There's different things you can pick, and it's usually a 2 or 3 years like pre-university not degree, but diploma. And so I did, mine was supposed to be 2 years, and I took three to finish it because I took one semester off to go train in France. And so, yeah, completed that in 3 years. And then afterwards, I wanted to stay in Ottawa and I wanted to do engineering. I applied for mechanical engineering here at Ottawa U, and I also applied for aerospace engineering at Polytechnique at the University of Montreal. And I didn't get in aerospace, and I got in here in mechanical engineering, so that's what I was going to do. But over the summer, I was on the wait list for Montreal, and they called me, and there was a spot that opened up for me. So I that's what I wanted to do. So I moved back to Montreal, and that was hard for training. But I would travel back and forth from Montreal to Valleyfield on the days that I didn't have classes and on the weekends to train on the river and then stay with my parents and then go back to Montreal, do my classes. So I did that for 4 years. And then I realized that aerospace engineering was not for me. I really loved like all the general courses at the beginning, like general math, general physics, and all of that. But when it got really specific to like a bolt and a screw and like a bent in the middle, and I was like, no, you've lost me. I don't want to do that. And I realized that I wanted to apply kind of like all that sorts of physics to the human body, like movement, sport, and then I transferred to kinesiology, and I actually completed that degree and my diploma in kinesiology.
All while training pretty much full time.
Yep,
Oh my
yep,
gosh.
yeah.
So when you told your parents, I'm gonna go do this, I want to make this like I want to be a professional athlete, how did they react?
I think it happened over time. Like it wasn't like sit down dinner, that's what I'm gonna do. I think it was more like a general sense of, I want to keep training. And while I was in school and was able to do it, it wasn't a problem for them. Or I think they viewed this as a, just a more serious hobby at first. And then, yeah, when I got onto the senior team and was traveling a lot more, well, I got aid from like the Quebec government, and I got Sport Canada funding at some point too. So that was helping, and they were always behind it 100%. They would come to training, they would come to competition, like they came and see me a bunch of times at the World Cups, and they were planning obviously to come at the Olympics, but with COVID that didn't happen. But yeah, no, they were 100%. They always loved sport. Like my sister, she played tennis, she tried to go pro as a junior, and my dad traveled with her to all sorts of places to play tournaments and try to up her ranking. So yeah, they were always behind us 100% and loved watching us do our thing.
So when I'm just trying to like think of the timeline, you're 18 and you make the senior world or senior national
Yeah.
team. Is that how I
Mhm.
say it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at 19, you didn't make the senior national team, you made the junior
The under 23. So that's the category
under
between
23.
18 and 23 years old.
Okay. So you made the under 23
Mhm.
national team. And is that when you were like, I'm going to figure out how to fit university into here? So
Uh
18, 19, 20, 20.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I did university at, I think I got accepted, it was at 19 in
Okay.
Montreal for engineering. And I did that until my end of under 23 category, so for 4 years. So I was balancing that. And it was hard because every year I was trying to make the senior team again, and I was coming short multiple time in a row, like finishing in fourth place and having good races, but not able to put it all together. So that was frustrating. And then to not be, as my degree progressed in aerospace, not being fully happy in that either. So I think once I made the switch, um, my professional life of what I wanted to do after kayaking into kinesiology is when I like a big weight got lifted off my shoulder, and I think I was able to make that transition in kayaking as well, and everything kind of clicked.
Oh, that is so interesting and so cool and fascinating and insightful of you. I mean, I'm picturing you stuck in that moment where you're not making the national team
Mhm.
and you're not liking what you're doing and you're working so hard. You are obviously an extremely hard worker and a very dedicated, consistent, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not worker, but human.
Mhm.
And you're probably your skin is crawling. Like you're so frustrated, I'm guessing, at that time,
Yeah, it was
and you can't
very
figure it out.
yeah, it was frustrating because I was trying to make I made the big decision to move back to Montreal, so I knew that, moving the training environment from where it was stable here in Ottawa, and I had the national head coach that I could train with and a bunch of teammates at that time. Um, and then moving back to Montreal and having to commute back and forth to go to the river in Valleyfield and not having I had a coach in Valleyfield, the one I actually started with when I was 12, and but it was still tricky. You're training by yourself. Your coach can come not every time you're training. You need to push yourself in the training session. So the training environment was tougher. I was doing a degree that was also tough. And yeah, the commute, which added the stress, the time, the fatigue on top of that. So yeah, I was trying to balance a lot of things. And when I think I got the balance figured out, it started to go my way a little more.
Did anybody help you figure that out, or is that something you just figured out on your own?
I mean, my parents helped me tremendously for sure, and I lived with my sister in Montreal, and we actually did our kin degree together. We started at the same time, and we're in the same cohort or class. So I think that helped a lot to manage like the schedule. Like, not that my sister was my personal assistant, but she helped me a lot when I was away. Like, she would obviously be at the classes, and I would take her notes.
So
Yeah,
great.
so that helped me a bunch. And my parents, yeah, they were when I would go to Valleyfield, like my mom would have like food ready, and like my dad would go fill up the car, and yeah, a bunch of things like that, which really helped. And I got more funding and some sponsors at that time, which alleviate, the financial burden of all those expenses that are related to competing and training everywhere in the world.
Yeah, uh, more on that. How it is it as a Canadian athlete who's doing these national competitions
hmm
and working toward the Olympics and then getting to go to the Olympics, is it well funded? Like, is it sustainable for one human to live on that?
I mean, the short answer is no. Especially in our sport that's amateur and you're not paid to do it. Like, if you think of rugby, Canada, or, hockey, where the girls or and the guys, they get like a salary plus the funding that they get from Sport Canada and their province. For us, we relied only on Sport Canada funding, which you need to achieve a certain performance benchmark before you can be recommended to by your federation to receive that funding. And that's about $22,000 per year. And I think it just got increased with the new budget a little bit. But that was supposed to be for your expenses at home, like rent, transportation, like your bus pass, like food when you're living in Canada. And then your federation is supposed to like support you for your sport. But for us, that's not the case. We had to pay for flights, we had to pay for accommodation, have to pay for competition fees, we have to pay for coaching fees. So we get by our federation individually after each training block or competition block. So if we were gone for a month and a half in Europe for the three World Cups in June, then in July when we get back, we'd receive a bill for like, yeah, even the car, the gas, like they would get a bit of funding, but the rest we would have to cover. So I would get sport,
Wow.
yeah, I would get Sport
How
Canada
the
funding.
hell?
I would get Quebec funding, which was about 10 grand, and then the rest had to be sponsored.
Who found sponsors? Is that you going out and like working
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Well, my dad had a couple connection in Valleyfield, and then after like, connection from connection. I got a couple of things here and there, but yeah, it's tough like to have someone sponsor an individual. I mean, and I also haven't won like a World Cup. I'm not like a renowned athlete either. So there's not the visibility of that for companies to want to give you a big amount of money, right? But I got like little bits here and there from businesses in Valleyfield that wanted to support me. Even the town itself gave me a little funding, and then lived on that. But also, what was nice is I lived with my sister in Montreal, so we were able to share that accommodation together, and then my parents helped us with that. So that was one thing I didn't have to worry about. And then, yeah, when I was away, it was all the funding that I received or the sponsors that I received that were able to help me pay for all of
I mean,
that.
the stress of that on top of the stress of already being in a very competitive
Hmm.
profession, on top of the training you're doing on your body, on top of what that is on your mind, on top of going to university.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You must, what is the drive? Like what keeps you going when you're in that, when everything is, you've got to work really hard for
Hmm.
every little part of it.
Yeah.
How do you keep going?
I mean, for me, sure, there was always the motivation of wanting to go to the Olympics and compete there on the big stage. But I think my main drive and my main motivator was just to get better and, be able to compete with the best in the world. That was my biggest motivator, I think. You do one race, you do well, and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can like go up the ranks like little by little. And I had like goals of, being the world ranking in the top 50. And then those were my main motivator to just try to reach the top like inch by inch.
Right, everything else was kinda secondary. You could deal with it because it was a part of what you really wanted to do. In a way, you were, like, living your dream.
Hmm.
So you're like, "Whatever I have to do to stay in this, I'll
Yeah.
do it. It's worth it."
Yeah.
Right.
And I enjoyed, like I said, we didn't have that many competitions. So if I only like to compete and race, I don't know if I could have stayed in the sport, but I really enjoy training, being with my teammates on the water and pushing ourselves to like our limit and working on things technically. I really like the repetitive task and doing like an upstream or doing a move like over and over again to perfect it and reading the water. So I all those aspects of the sport, and that was the main of it basically because we didn't get to race every weekend, so you had to enjoy those moments on the water when you were training because otherwise you would have found it long.
How many people, like, when you said you made the national team, the Canadian national team, how many people were on that team?
So there are 3 spots for each category. So let's say right now there would be 3 kayak men, 3 kayak women, 3C1 men, 3C1 women. So the maximum people on the team can be
Okay, so you train with the men as well.
yep.
So the whole national team, 12 of you travel together in Europe, you're doing
Yeah.
those okay.
Sometimes less
Um
because to be on the national team, yes, you had to be top 3 in your category, but you also had to meet a certain performance benchmark. So if you didn't make it, it was up to the committee to decide if they wanted to include you in the team or say like keep training, you're not at the level yet to compete at the World Cups. So it's happened that we've had teams of 5 people, 6 people. It's not often that we would fill the whole like 12 quotas that we were allocated.
Oh, you just wouldn't compete. If Canada felt like we don't have the person to compete in this one, we're not gonna do it. We're not gonna send anybody.
Yep, exactly.
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay, so on average, what how many people were on your team that you were traveling with, training with throughout your
Yeah, I
career?
think usually we were probably about 6 to 8, but then we would have training camps where more people were invited, and sometimes the younger, like the juniors and the under 23, once I was a senior, were also invited on some training camps. So it kind of varied quite a bit.
Is that the most fun? Are these the people that like, did you get ridiculously close to these people?
Yes, yeah, yeah, of course. We spent 24 hours, 7 days a week, traveling together on the plane, sleeping in airports, on the ground, on our boats, dealing with airlines at the counter when they didn't want to take our kayaks on the plane. Like we did all sorts of like renting rental cars, trying to put the kayaks on the roof, like, and traveling everywhere. I went to on every continent, for paddling. So you dealing with different languages, trying to make your point across, and like everybody trying to pitch in and going on adventures on our days off, in Rio, in Brazil, in like Japan, in the Reunion Island. So we had so much fun.
Are these people you're still in touch with?
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah. And most of them
Right.
live in Ottawa, who I was on the national team with for many years because of just the nature of having the national team in Ottawa. Well, many people came from here and remained here, and me, I moved here and I enjoyed it a lot. So I decided to make it my home. And yeah, I mean, we see each other, I don't want to say weekly, but close.
Right. You must miss that feeling when you're all together and knowing, that traveling, spending the whole summer together, knowing you're competing together in those world the world championships.
World
Like,
Cups, yeah.
what is it like to say goodbye to that and to not see those people 24 hours a day?
hmm I think it was a little break. I enjoy my alone time too. I would say I do like obviously I think in the moment when I retired, I was kind of like uh a breath of like fresh air, you and you're starting something different and you're moving towards different goals. But yeah, I definitely miss it quite a bit. But it's nice to also see the reverse of that and be at home more often because we would travel, I want to say like 8 months out of 12 a year.
Gosh.
So it was a big change of pace to be here and get to, enjoy the townhome that I bought with my partner and to
Yeah.
go in the Gatineau Park and enjoy skiing, biking, swimming, and just discover the city as a resident now more than just like kind of like passing by every couple weeks during the year. So that's been
Right,
that's
because
been nice.
since you were 18 years old, you haven't lived 365 days in a city, beyond like going off on vacation.
Yeah.
Right, that's huge. Can you take me back? I want to ask about the
hmm
Olympics, and I cannot believe the Olympics you went to were in COVID. I kind of forgot that when I looked at it was 2020.
Yeah.
But before I ask you about that, tell me a day in your life. I want to like say you're 26, 27. I want to know a training day. Take
hmm
me through it.
It's different like all year round, but let's say we're in a big, it's either or I'm away training on the water. We would usually either do 2 days on two training session on the water or one training session on the water and one workout in the gym. So depending on the time slots that we had on the water course, we would get up, I would warm up, and sometimes in some cities we live close enough that we could just walk or bike to the training center and then do my warm up there off the water, do my warm up on the water, and then depending of the workouts, either it's some sort of like delivery workout that we need to get off the boat, look at the gates where they are and make our plan of like how we want to negotiate them, discuss with the coach what could be the fastest line, read the water, and think of yeah like what's the path that I'm going to take down the river that's going to be the most efficient, the fastest for me, the ones that are going to use my skills to the best potential, and then do some visualization if I'm doing that delivery workout on the water. Sometimes I would get in my boat. Well, first I would off my boat, I would visualize off the water, close my eyes, see myself go down the rapid, and then I would do it again in my boat, closing my eyes but paddling as if I was going down the rapid. And then once it was my turn, then I would go on the water, deliver that, and then after we watch videos sometimes in between runs to try to see what I did wrong, try to correct the mistakes and go again for usually the training sessions because the way water blocks usually are an hour when we go on artificial courses. And so we would train for an hour. Then after the session, we'd review videos again. And then lunchtime, then either we'll come back for maybe we're doing technique session in the afternoon. So we're staying in one section of the river, going back up, paddling back up, changing the course. Maybe we're working on something specific. Either it's hard offset, so the gates are really offset, and we're working on different combination. Either I'm doing a spin, either I'm doing a reverse. So working on all different technical moves. So usually we have also more breaks. We can be watching videos again then. And after that, recovery at home and getting ready to do it again.
Hey, when you say warm up at the gym, what are you doing? Is it like leg day? Is this what you do?
Well, our
Is it
sport
lots of
involves,
shoulders?
yeah, it involves a lot of upper body, but even though our legs are stationary, there's a lot of connection that happen between our legs, our core, and our upper body. So we would do exercises that would kind of target stability while doing an upper body move. So I don't know, like let's say I'm on a Swiss ball and I'm doing a shoulder press, or so like there would be some mix as in to bring instability while doing a movement that's more upper body targeted.
Makes total sense because that's what you're doing in the boat, right? You're trying to keep
Yep,
yourself stable while it's very unstable.
exactly.
Okay, and then when you say recovery, is that like mobility? Is that working with exercise balls? Is that
Hmm.
massage therapy? Like what is that?
Yeah, mobility and some training camps we were lucky to have a physio come in, although we would have to pay for the physio. So sometimes we'd get some physio sessions and usually dry needling. We did a lot of that. Kind of like your own thing, like foam roller, lacrosse balls, and then some stretching, whatever you feel like you needed that day. But it's kind of up to us to deal with that.
Who's up to you, right?
Hmm.
How did your body feel? Were you ever just fucking exhausted, or were you so well maintained with warm-ups, mobility, like recovery,
Hmm.
and your food was like replenishing all of the stuff that you're burning? So you always kind of maintained a certain level of, yeah, I'm tired, but I feel good. Like I can go again tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, having the luxury. So for me, I did school and training. I didn't have to add a layer to that. I didn't have to get a job to sustain my competition training schedule. So to only have two things to manage, I think when I was on training camp, I was really able to focus on the training, on the recovery, and I think that was a really that's something that really helped me to focus on training, competing, recovering, fueling well. Like I was also super lucky, like my teammates that I stayed with and got along really well, they all like to cook. We all like to cook together, so we would always prepare like great food. Um and so I think that was a part that also helped me like stay fit and healthy throughout my career.
And your body felt pretty good
Yeah.
throughout your career.
Yeah, I've never had
Okay.
any major injuries, and I think just staying on top of, the gym all year long to prepare your body for the what it was going to go through during the season was also a big factor in that. But I had a strength and conditioning coach here that would follow me. I also had a mental health coach. So, I think I surrounded myself with the right people that really helped me, yeah, stay healthy.
I was going to ask about the mental health part. So you had a mental health coach. What is that?
That is someone that is not a psychologist per se, but like is trained for sport specific, I guess, like challenges or common things that are recurrent or you find in sport. And I would just we worked on a lot of visualization, trying to get ready for competition, finding a routine that works on race days. And yeah, that was mainly what was around the sessions that I had with my mental health coach.
Do you ever feel isolated from, I mean, I know you were there with your team and I know your family was very supportive,
Mhm,
but if you're traveling 8 months of the year, yes, you're with the same people and they become family, I'm sure.
mhm,
But there's people obviously that you meet through university, through high school,
mhm.
being a kid, your cousins, like all of those people. How hard was it to maintain a relationship with them when you were traveling? 8 months of the year and so uber focused on what you were doing.
Hmm. I mean, that's definitely hard, and I definitely probably could have done better in that department to stay connected with people. I think, well, first of all, I'm a little bit more introverted, so having less friends for me is not a huge deal, but maintaining connection is like important, and I see the value in that, obviously. And I did that when I was abroad, like made multiple friends from other countries, and we would see them pretty much more than my family. um but yeah, like from high school, I don't think I'm really connected with anyone anymore, and then that's something that my focus is shifting now, right? Because I'm in the community more, and obviously I'm here at home more, and I want to, like, on my days off, I want to spend it with other people, right? Like now my teammates are off and either they're still competing or they're working, so I have to I have to work on that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Tokyo 2020. Wait, even before that, when did you know you had made the Olympics?
So it was a bit of a long process. It was October when I knew for sure that I was going. It was October 2019. So that was
Congratulations, by the way.
pre-COVID.
Holy shit.
Thank you. It was,
You went
yeah.
to the Olympics, Flo.
Yeah.
Okay, so October 2019, you found out. Tell me that feeling. Tell me that first phone call.
It was, I was in Japan on a training camp because we were like the people that were hopeful to go to the Olympics. We were with Canoe Kayak Canada. We organized a training camp in Japan. Like it was the block that they allowed athletes to come and train on the course to prepare for the games there. And there was we were just waiting for quotas to finish to be allocated by the International Canoe Federation. And then once that was done, the Canoe Kayak Canada, they made a post online and they'd send me an email, I think. And that was that. And I was in Japan and I had just woken up in the morning because of the time change. Can't remember if like it was the end of the day here in Canada and then it was start of the day for us or the next day for us. But yeah, that's how I got the news, and
An
I don't
email. Wait, an email. No one called to say, hey, you've been working so hard for 1,000 years.
well, it's
You're going to
because
the Olympics.
we were away, right? And I think they were just waiting
Right.
on that confirmation from the International Canoe Federation, and once that happened, they knew like either it was the middle because I think it was the middle of the night, so that's when I got up and I was like I saw the post on Facebook saying like, "Oh, it's confirmed, like, Florence is going to the Olympics." And it all
What did
coincide.
you do? Like, what went through your body?
I feel like I was just waiting for the confirmation. Like it had been kind of a wait because I knew I qualified, but we just
Okay.
had the confirmation. So for me, yeah, the wait was long because the World Championship was like the month before, and so yeah, it was a couple of weeks of like waiting around. So it was nice to be. I was relieved, basically. Like okay, now
Yeah.
it's happening. It's for real. And yeah, I'm going. So I was super excited. And especially to be in Japan when learning the news was pretty cool because I was in the environment that the games were going to happen. Like, I could start picturing myself like I'm going to be at this course and the stands are going to be here. So that was really a fun experience. But then
Who
COVID
did you
happened
call?
and that was,
Wait, who did you call
oh,
to
who did I,
tell?
I don't,
Who was your first phone call?
I don't know. I have no idea. I think I must have like messaged my parents or called my parents. I think that was probably what happened, or texted them or something. But yeah.
Oh my God, bless. We are so different. I think I'd be like, there's a podcast coming out with an announcement. You're like, I think I must have texted my parents.
Yeah. I think so. Because the news went on
Yes.
like on social media so for everyone to see. So I think I woke up and there was already a bunch of people messaging me. So I was just
Right.
replying
They
to
knew.
messages.
Oh. And then, yeah, so you're going to Tokyo, and then COVID happens.
Hmm.
And what happened? Well, not with COVID. Ugh, let's not go in.
Yeah.
But yeah, what happened for you and the Olympics and how that all played out? What did that end up being like?
Yeah. That was tough, you know, like you know you're going, you know you've secured your spot, and then in the aftermath of like COVID and in the spring of 2020, then they decide to, you know, postpone. Well, first cancel, and then that was just like, is that for real, right? Like, am I not gonna get to I've gone through all of this. I've actually qualified. I'm actually nominated on the Olympic team, and I'm not gonna get to go. So that was, yeah, that was a real blow at first. And then when it was postponed, I was kind of like, it wasn't like, oh, the best case scenario or whatever, but I was still like, you know, then it gives me another year to train, gives me another opportunity to get better and really focus on some of the my weaknesses and hammer on that and maybe gain some valuable experience, you know, training, and I can apply that to the games, and maybe it's going to give me a better result, right? So that's kind of like the mindset that switched for me. I was just like, I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to get better and try to get an edge on my competitors.
So just to remind everybody, I mean, we know what happened, we know what happened with COVID, but for the Olympics specifically,
Mhm.
you find out October 2019 you're going. Happens, well, kind of like the when the world shut down, it was mid-March
Yeah.
2020. When did you get the news, or did you get the news to say the Olympics were being canceled?
Yeah,
Without any like it okay,
yeah,
it's
there
like
was
it's
an
canceled, there's no postponing.
I think it was an email again, or they were like, they're exploring because Canada decided to say we're not going to go before it was postponed or something, because Japan was going to go through with it, and then Canada was like, we're not going. If it's happening, we're not going. So that was like an email gone to like all the athletes that were qualified. And yeah, that was like, but
You
they,
get the reason, right? It's not like
yeah.
Canada's doing this to you. It's like that actually was probably the smartest decision because
Hmm.
especially then it was
Safety
so
reason.
new.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you get an email to say if it goes ahead, we're not
Yeah.
going.
I think that was
And
May,
then what happened?
April, May, I want to
Okay.
say. And then after that, well, like they made the decision, the games to postpone, and and then I think Canada was just saying like, you know, well, if we are gonna go or not, that's gonna be further along the line to see how that the situation evolves. And yeah, and then the training was definitely harder. I moved back into my parents in Valleyfield with my partner and my sister. I was doing school over there because then I could train on the Waywater. And yeah, my home gym in Valleyfield lent me some equipment. So the garage of my parents became the workout room with a bunch of equipments that it lent me so I could keep with my physical preparation. And then I would go train on my own on the water. No coach, no
Right, you
nothing.
weren't training even with your coach and your teammates for the
Hmm.
biggest race of your life,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, flow.
And then after
Whoa.
that, it was tricky because when the like borders reopened, I left. It was, I think, March or February of 2021, and I didn't get back home until September after the games, because then that was all part of like we had the visas to go in. We couldn't like going back and forth, so we just got our visas to go to Europe and then the ones to go to the games. And we stayed in Europe to train and prepare as best as we could because that's where the best way water, best artificial courses, whatever resembled the most to what we would face in Japan. So we moved there and basically lived there until,
And when you say we, your
yeah,
teammates, like
yeah,
no, yeah, okay.
teammates and coaches, and that's who, like, my partner could not even come to Europe, or my parents could not even come. Any, you know, it was all, you needed like a specific visa reason for you to like be traveling, because otherwise they wouldn't allow just tourists because of COVID.
And so when did the Olympics take place after? Remind me.
That was August 2021.
And so it still was pretty shut down, right? The world, if I think
Yep,
back to then.
yep.
So a whole different experience than every other Olympics. Like what
Hmm.
was the village, the athletes' village like?
And I mean, in canoe slalom, because it's such a big venue, and it's not often put where the village is. So in Japan we were pretty lucky because the whitewater was in Tokyo, so we got to stay at the Olympic Village, which was very nice to experience all that, because if it was another satellite village, maybe the experience would have been different, on top of, COVID. Have been even feeling more isolated than than being able to be in the Olympic Village with everybody else. But it was still like we couldn't just walk out of the Olympic Village. It was like, this is where you stay. And then if you're going to the competition venue, you go on the bus that takes you directly there. And when you're done, you go back on the bus and it takes you directly back to the village. There was no like, I'm going to go explore today. So I was in Tokyo for the Olympics for a total of 4 weeks, because we had a pre-training camp that was allowed, but it was the same deal. We were at a hotel. Everybody was at the same hotel. We could not leave the hotel, just the steps down to the bus that would take us to the venue and back. And that was like the 2 weeks of pre-camp before we moved into the Olympic Village. So, yeah, I saw Japan from the view of my hotel room and the Olympic course, obviously.
Did that make it so much more difficult to compete, not having that other experience? Or do you think maybe it made your training more focused and intense because
Hmm.
you literally were not allowed to have any distractions?
Yeah, I
What do you
think a
think?
little bit of both. And I mean, once we moved into the Olympic Village, there was like excitement around that. And then there was new people to talk to from other countries, other sports. So that made the experience like less, there was more distraction at that time. But the 2 weeks in the hotel by yourself, that was pretty tricky. And we were having like dedicated meal time with like the same people every day. So that was getting dull after 2.5 weeks. But I think I spent some times in 2019 in Japan. We had two training camps there in October, November, and we took some time to explore. I mean, not knowing what was going to happen, but I was glad for that we took days off and went around Tokyo and the city, and then experienced what the country was like and the culture, because we definitely didn't get to do that during the Olympics.
Was in the athletes village, were you said you did see other people. Were you allowed to chat and get to know other
Yeah, yeah,
people from
yeah.
other sport? You were,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We were in our accommodation in our room. We didn't have to like wear mask, but as soon as we stepped outside, we had to wear mask. And then at the dining hall, I remember there was a bunch of like plexiglass everywhere. So you'd eat in this like cubicle, but it was all transparent. So you would see someone, but it was like so soundproof that you're trying to talk. Yeah, everyone was like shouting. So yeah, that was, I mean, and obviously communicating and trying to get to know people with masks and not seeing facial expression and like language barrier. That's just all around like not easy. But
Oh, that
it was
is
still a great experience. And for me, that was my only Olympic experience. So I didn't I can't compare it to anything. So for me, it was my experience, and I enjoyed it to the maximum of what I got to live there.
how did your race go? Or races? How many did you do?
So short. The Olympics, it's for us, there's a qualification run, and then after, if you make the cutoff, then you move on to the semifinal, and then if you make the top 10, you move on to the final. So I did quite well actually, and in the first race, I got 13th place, and I qualified for the semifinal, which was at that time the first. I was the first woman in like basically since 1996 or 2000 to make the semifinal.
What?
Yeah. So
Whoa,
yeah,
congrats.
that was pretty fun. And I had a good race, and then for the semifinal, they changed the setup, like they changed the course, they changed the order of the gates and the combination. And then yeah, it's one run instead of two. And then whoever's in the top 10 from that run moves on to the final. And I had a couple of mistakes. The course was tougher too, and stakes were higher. And I was obviously, with one run, I was trying to to do something kind of like spectacular to move into the top 10, but that didn't happen. But I was still very happy with the racing and in the qualification and race to my level and to my potential of what I knew I could do.
How long is a race for you? Like that one run, how long?
It varies obviously from courses to courses and river to river. So it would be, and then now they're like kind of like lowering the times, but it's between 90 seconds to 110 seconds.
Shit, flow. It's so much prep, so much work, and
Mhm.
then you've got to like just kill it in 90
Yeah.
seconds. Oh my gosh.
It's not quite as
Wow.
short as 100 meters running, but it feels still pretty short.
Yeah.
Not much time
It's like
to,
the importance of 90 seconds in your whole life, you know?
Mhm.
What a build up.
Yeah.
Whoa. When did you start thinking about retiring?
Just because of like the precarity of, financial situation, you're living like year to year, you're not able to save, all the money that you bring in, it just you pay it in expenses like traveling, equipment, living in general, and there's like nothing left at the end of the year. So, I mean, if you ask me, I could be doing this still, would love that, but just instead, the future is just so unpredictable. And if you want to have a family, if you want to do something else too, right? You just can't. So for me, that was that. It was really binding in a sense that there's nothing else I could do but that if I wanted to keep progressing. And if I wanted to, yeah, save for the future and then think of something else uh, in the next 10 years, I had to at some point retire from sport because it was too demanding.
How did you make that call? Like it sounds so logical,
Yeah.
but it's also so
No.
hard.
Yes. So for me, I after Tokyo, I was like, it was 2021, and instead of a 4-year cycle before the next Olympics, it was a 3-year cycle. So I was like, you know what, I feel like that's reasonable to keep going for 3 years, and then at that time I like can finish my degree, and by the time if I qualify for Paris, then I push to be the best for that. And then afterwards, that's when I would retire. Because that's pretty common, in sport to retire after an Olympic cycle because, you've worked so hard for 4 years, you either achieve the goal or you don't. And then after you have that to make that decision, like, do I want to get into another 4 years? Because it doesn't really happen that you, in the 2 years in the middle of the cycle, you would just be like, oh, okay, that's it. Like, I'm not pursuing. So for me, it made sense to keep going for 3 years and see what would happen. And I was pretty close to again and compete in Paris, but it didn't happen for a second time, and I'm at peace with that. I did everything I could do to make it happen. And sometimes there's things you don't control. Obviously, your teammates' performances you don't control. And some I was very sick for 2 of the races out of 3 that counted for Olympic selection. So I wasn't at my 100%, but I still was able to deliver some good races. And those are things you don't control. You don't have a say in it. So it is what it is.
And you can walk away at that point. You knew you could walk away knowing because you just said that I did everything I could possibly do to be the best
Hmm.
slalom canoeist I could possibly be. And there's got to be some peace in that because I mean, you could just keep driving, right? You could drive for the rest of your life to shave off a point, whatever, of a second out
Hmm.
of 90 seconds, you know? So it's always going to be, you're always going to have to leave something, I
Yeah.
think, on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But be at peace with it. And so after you realize you didn't make the Paris Olympics, that's you said I'm going to retire. And how do you do that? Is that something you announce? You tell your coach? You chat with your partner first? Like how did you do that?
I feel it was already kind of the decision was already made 3 years ago of like that's gonna be when it's gonna happen. And I think for me, I couldn't live in the in between. Oh yes, I'm go if I make the team in Paris, then maybe I'll do another 4 years. Or if I'm not satisfied with how I race, maybe I'm gonna do it. For me, it was like I need to have a finite like point. Like if I make it or if I don't, it doesn't matter. That's gonna be the last of it. And I think that just helped me, that was the goal. And after that, I was going to move on to something else. And mentally and for my mindset, I think it brought me some peace. And, the decision would have made, then it was put aside and I was just driving towards Paris. And once that was done, then, I was moving on to something else. So I think
Is it something you had to grieve?
oh, for sure. And I mean, I think I'm still grieving that, even though it's over, right? It's something that stays with you, and you definitely think back on the memories. And yeah, for me, I just loved training so much, and I loved moving, and I loved pushing myself. And for me, no matter what, like the weather, I was always smiling because that was my passion. And I would say like on the everyday now, that's what I find hard because I know that my truest passion is still, kayaking and canoe slalom, but it's just not like it's just not feasible, right? It's not realistic
Mm.
for forever. So I have to make peace with that too, right?
How do you do that? Do you have a good therapist?
I actually do. Yeah, a great therapist. And just accepting that, the grief is normal, right? Like, and
Yeah.
not every day is sunshine and rainbow, and it's gonna be tricky to navigate that for the foreseeable future, but it's to try to find little things to stay connected to my community in canoe slalom. Like I'm on a bunch of different committees. I coach on my free time. I try to go paddle and race the local races to stay connected and still live my passion through that, right?
Oh, right. So it's not like you can't get back in the boat, the
No,
canoe,
exactly. And for
yeah,
me, that was
kayak,
never gonna
yeah.
be the case. Like, it's not like quitting like cold turkey. I'm never gonna touch this again. Like, get me out of here. So no, for me, it's something I enjoy, and I don't have. Well, I mean, obviously, I have some negative memories like everybody else, right? And 18 years in a sport, like, it's not all positive, but the main picture for me is very positive, and I still love it very much. Like I'm not, some athletes they quit their sport and they're like, I never want to do this again. Like I am tired of it. It drove me to the ground. And that's not the case for me. Like I could have kept training, I could have kept competing, but decided to, shift towards another goal. And that doesn't mean that I forget about kayaking and I never want to do it again.
When you look back on your 18-year career as a professional athlete, is there anything about yourself that really surprised you to learn?
I mean, I don't think so. I feel just in comparison, like for me, sometimes I would find it surprising that other people didn't want to, yeah, train in all different weathers or didn't want to like train every day. Like when I was young, I was like train, train, train. I never want to stop. Like, and even when I was, yeah, 26, 27, 28, it was kind of like full steam. Whatever it is that I have to do, I'm gonna do it. So I wouldn't say surprised, but sometimes I was surprised that I would go through, or it didn't feel like big sacrifices for me and that it was for other people. I was just like, no, that's like business as usual. Like that's what we do, right?
Right. What do you do now?
So yeah, for the city of Ottawa as a police officer, and I patrol the roads and try to keep everybody safe.
Thank you for keeping us safe. Is there anything about this career that is similar at all to your life as a professional athlete?
Well, I mean, every day is different. That's one thing I love about this job is it's kind of like kayaking and racing on different river because every day you go to work and it's something new. You don't know what you're going to be doing. It's like in the morning when I have breakfast with my partner, I'm like, oh, what's on your agenda today? And she's able to tell me I have this to do. And then me, it's like, well, whatever comes my way, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Or that's where I go. So it's something that I really enjoy, and that relates very well to what I did as a kayaker and being adaptable to a multitude of situation and people. And yeah, just like a little bit of the action, driving the car fast, having that like adrenaline rush is obviously similar to racing and competing.
What do you do now to move your body? What's your favorite thing to do? Besides, I know you still love to be on the water, but outside of that.
For the summer, got into like cycling quite a bit. I love the Gatineau Park. And after I left Ottawa to go to Montreal for university, I grieved Ottawa. I missed it so much because I love the feel of the city, but small city, and then you're so close to nature, and the Gatineau Park is just so amazing for all outdoor adventure. So I love to bike, and now that the snow's here, it's gonna be cross country skiing like every other day. So out there in the park. So I can't wait.
I love that. Flo, you're a special human, and I really admire you a lot. And your perspective, I find it so refreshing in that you're like, yeah, of course I grieved, but also I needed to figure this out and set new goals, and this is just my reality now, and that not every day is going to be great anyway, regardless if you're on the water or not on the water. Yeah, thanks for sharing everything and being so open and honest. Yeah, just
And I try to, go with the flow. Goes with my name, but that's kind of like my way of living, right? Like I just try not to stress too much. Like when I was kayaking, that was the goal, and now I have another one. That's what I'm focused on, and I try to, yeah, just go with the flow. Don't go against the current. That's way too hard.
Oh my God, I love you, and I love you for saying that. That's beautiful. Thank you, Flo.
Thanks, Nadine.
Be safe out there. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.